It's not the same thing, she said. Tossing her hair over her shoulder like that settled the matter. He's just my friend. I, 30 male, sat across from my girlfriend, Julia, 27, in our living room. Her suitcase was half-zipped behind her, the bright pink luggage tag dangling like a neon sign screaming denial. A weekend trip with your male best friend? I repeated slowly, trying to keep my voice calm. Isn't the same as if I booked a trip with another woman? Her eyes rolled so hard I thought they might get stuck. You're being ridiculous. You know, Mark, we've been friends since college. There's nothing romantic about it. Except you didn't bother to mention it until yesterday, I said, leaning back. My arms crossed themselves without me realizing. And you're sharing a hotel room? Julia waved a dismissive hand. 2 beds. Relax. Not everything is some grand betrayal. Honestly, it's exhausting how insecure you can be. That word insecure landed like a slap, because deep down, I wasn't insecure. I was observant. I'd seen the way Mark looked at her at her birthday party last month, lingering too long when their shoulders brushed, laughing too eagerly at jokes that weren't funny. Still, I bit my tongue. I nodded, calm, collected. I understand. She blinked at me, surprised by my lack of argument. Good, finally, thank you. I need you to trust me on this. I do, I said smoothly, even managing a small smile. Have fun? She gave me a suspicious glance like she couldn't believe I'd backed down so easily. But then she smiled, satisfied, and went back to fussing with her suitcase. I excused myself to the bedroom, closed the door, and sat on the edge of the bed with my phone in hand. If Julia thought this was about insecurity, she was wrong. This was about respect, and respect is a two-way street. By midnight, my flights were booked. A weekend getaway, same time frame as hers. Different destination, different energy. And definitely not the same thing. Because while she was packing swimsuits and sundresses to spend time with Mark, I was texting someone else, someone she would never expect. The next morning, Julia kissed me on the cheek before her rideshare pulled up. See you Sunday night. Won't mope while I'm gone, okay? She said, grinning. I smiled back, watching her suitcase roll out the door. Don't worry, I said. I won't. When the door shut behind her, I picked up my packed bag and headed out. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about jealousy. It was about showing Julia exactly how not the same thing could feel when the tables turned. And let's just say when she saw who my travel companion was, she finally understood. The airport was buzzing that Friday morning, business travelers with their rolling bags weaving between vacationers wearing straw hats and sandals. I blended somewhere in between, my suit jacket slung casually over my arm, a duffel at my side. I checked my phone. One unread message. Julia just landed. Mark already ordered mimosas. Lol. Don't wait up for me this weekend. I smirked, sliding the phone back into my pocket. Let her have her innocent fun. Meanwhile, my own weekend was about to start. Gate C27 came a familiar voice. I turned, and there she was, Samantha, my ex. The one Julia had always been most insecure about. Tall, elegant, the kind of woman who didn't just walk into a room, she owned it. She smiled at me like no time had passed at all. Ready for a little getaway? I grinned back. More than ready. Now, before anyone thinks I was being reckless, let me explain. Samantha and I had dated years ago, long before Julia, but we'd ended things amicably. Stayed friends, actually. But Julia... She'd always hated the idea of Samantha. Called her the ghost haunting our relationship, and maybe Julia was right to be worried. Samantha and I boarded, found our seats, and settled in. She leaned close as the plane taxied, her perfume reminding me of old memories. So, Julia doesn't know, she teased. Nope, I said simply. She thinks I'm sitting at home, sulking. Instead, you're flying off with me, Samantha said, raising an eyebrow. That's bold? Not bold, I corrected. It's just fair. Because here's the thing, Julia wanted independence. Fine. She wanted to claim double standards as not the same thing. It's also fine. But she'd made her choice, and now I was making mine. The flight passed quickly, laughter filling the space where awkwardness could have been. With Samantha, conversation flowed effortlessly. She asked about work, about family, even about the book I'd been writing for years but never finishing. Julia never asked about that. By the time we landed, I realized something startling. I wasn't just trying to prove a point. I was actually having fun, real fun. The kind I hadn't felt in months. Meanwhile, Julia's texts grew sporadic. I chuckled at that one, sipping a drink by the hotel pool. Oh, I was more than okay. Samantha leaned over, her sunglasses catching the sun. So when she finds out, how do you think she'll react? I looked out at the water, imagining Julia's face, when she realized exactly who I'd been with all weekend. She finally understand, I said quietly. It's not the same thing at all. Saturday morning, I woke up in a hotel room that smelled faintly of salt air and freshly brewed coffee. Samantha was sitting by the balcony, hair tied back, laptop open, as she browsed through emails. She looked over her shoulder and smirked. You're not usually a morning person. I'm adjusting, I said, stretching. Vacation mode. The truth was, I'd barely slept. Not because of guilt, no, that had worn off long ago, but because my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I put the phone face down on the nightstand. For the first time in months, I didn't feel the need to respond. I let her stew. Meanwhile, Samantha closed her laptop and joined me on the bed. You know, she said, I'm not sure if you're doing this to prove something to Julia, or because you actually want to. Can it be both? I asked. She tilted her head, studying me. You've changed since we dated. More certain of yourself. I chuckled. Or maybe I just finally got tired of being taken for granted. We spent the day exploring the city brunch at a cafe, wandering through local markets, laughing at tourists taking awkward selfies. At one point, Samantha slipped her arm through mine, and it felt natural, like it had always been meant to fit there. By evening, we were back at the hotel bar, a live band playing something jazzy. I checked my phone again this time, voicemails. Her voice cracked with frustration. Julia, I don't know what's wrong with you. Why aren't you answering? I'm trying here. You said you wanted me to be honest. Well, I'm being honest. Nothing's happening with Mark. I needed space. Can't you understand that? Samantha leaned against me, sipping her wine. She sounds desperate. She sounds guilty, I corrected. Julia had always been good at flipping the script. If I questioned her, I was insecure. If I asked for respect, I was controlling. Now, for the first time, I wasn't reacting. And that silence was speaking louder than anything I could say. Around midnight, another text buzzed through. Julia, where are you? Don't make me look like an idiot in front of my friends. At least tell me you're home safe. Safe. That word made me laugh, because safe was exactly what I hadn't felt in months. With her constant belittling, her dismissive tone, her refusal to take my concerns seriously. With Samantha, I felt free. As I set my phone back down, Samantha touched my hand. You're not going back to her, are you? I shook my head slowly. Not after this. By Sunday evening, the tension had shifted. Julia's texts had gone from defensive to downright frantic. Why aren't you answering me? Are you with someone? Please tell me you're not doing what I think you're doing. La Fontana was buzzing that night, clinking glasses. Low chatter, the hum of a piano in the corner. Samantha sat across from me, effortlessly confident, her smile catching the attention of more than a few onlookers. I checked my watch. Julia was late, typical. Then the doors opened. There she was, scanning the room with nervous eyes. She spotted me instantly, her relief melting into confusion, then horror. Her steps faltered as she realized I wasn't alone. Are you kidding me? Julia's voice cracked, loud enough to draw stares. What the hell is this? Samantha leaned back, unfazed. I calmly sipped my wine. Dinner, you invited me, remember? You? Julia's eyes darted between us, her face flushing crimson. You brought her? I nodded. Well, you said your male best friend was just a friend. This is just mine. Her jaw dropped. The restaurant went silent, forks pausing midair, conversation stalling. She slammed her purse onto the table, rattling the glasses. You're disgusting, she spat. Doing this to me after everything we've been through? I tilted my head. Doing this? Julia, all I did was accept an invitation to dinner. You're the one who spent a weekend playing house with your friend. How is this any different? It's not the same thing, she snapped, almost trembling. Exactly, I said softly. It's not. Samantha placed a hand over mine, calm, supportive, but not gloating, just present. Julia's eyes flicked to the gesture, and I swear I saw something break inside her. "Do you have any idea how humiliating this is?" she shouted, voice rising above the piano. A couple at the next table exchanged a look, clearly entertained by the drama unfolding. Humiliating? I leaned forward, lowering my voice but sharpening the edge. "Julia, you humiliated me months ago. Every time you dismissed my concerns. Every time you laughed off my feelings. Every time you made me feel small for not being comfortable with you and Mark." Her hands shook as she reached for her water glass, knocking it over. Liquid spilled across the white tablecloth, a messy reflection of her unraveling composure. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "Both of you." I held her gaze unblinking. "No, Julia. The only regret I have is not realizing sooner that I deserved better." The waiter rushed over to clean up the spill, awkwardly trying to diffuse the tension, but the scene was already etched into everyone's memory. Julia grabbed her purse, nearly tripping as she stormed toward the exit. The doors slammed behind her, leaving a stunned hush in her wake. I exhaled slowly, finally feeling the weight lift. Samantha squeezed my hand, her eyes soft. That was intense. I allowed myself the faintest smile. Yeah, but necessary. Because in that moment, with the entire restaurant as witness, Julia finally understood respect isn't optional. It's the baseline. And once it's gone, so is everything else. The morning after the restaurant scene, I woke up with a strange calmness in my chest. No buzzing phone, no barrage of texts demanding explanations, just silence, what felt like peace. Julia hadn't reached out since storming out of La Fontana. No long paragraphs, no half-hearted apologies, no attempts to spin the story in her favor. Maybe she was still too embarrassed, or maybe she finally realized her grip on me had snapped. I poured myself coffee and sat by the window, thinking back to everything that had led here. 3 years of love, frustration, and compromise that felt more like self-erasure. I'd been walking on eggshells for so long I didn't even realize I was barefoot until I finally stepped away. Samantha called mid-morning. "How are you holding up?" "Better than I thought I'd be," I admitted. "Feels like I can finally breathe again." She chuckled softly. Funny how that works. You let go of what's suffocating you, and suddenly the air feels lighter. It wasn't about Samantha, not entirely. Yes, she'd been the catalyst for Julia's meltdown, but what last night really showed me was that I'd already moved on emotionally, long before I'd taken that dinner seat. Julia's meltdown wasn't the end of us. It was the confirmation we'd already been over. Later that week, mutual friends started reaching out. Apparently Julia had gone full damage control, painting herself as the victim of my cruel stunt. But the thing about public scenes is they leave witnesses. People who'd seen her unravel, heard her words, felt the venom in her tone. Most didn't buy her story. One even texted me, "Honestly, man, I think you handled it with more class than most would have." That validation wasn't necessary, but it was nice. As for Julia's friends, silence. "Remember Mark, the just friend she swore was harmless?" Word got around that even he distanced himself after the restaurant fallout. Whether out of embarrassment or guilt, I didn't care. The universe has a funny way of sorting things out. Weeks passed, and the ache I thought I'd feel never came. Instead, there was clarity. I dove back into my work, picked up old hobbies I'd abandoned, and even started dating again slowly, carefully, with people who actually listened when I spoke. One evening, while cooking dinner, I thought back to Julia's words that night on the couch. "You'll never find anyone better than me." I laughed out loud, shaking my head, 'cause she'd been wrong. Better wasn't just about finding someone else, it was about finding myself again. And I had. So when people ask if I regret how it ended, my answer is simple. No. Some endings write themselves, and some are written by choice. Mine was both, and now. Now I'm finally free to start the next chapter, one where respect, love, and laughter aren't negotiable. Her words made me pause. She didn't know, not yet. But the possibility that I might mirror her behavior, that was enough to terrify her. I didn't reply. Instead, Samantha and I dressed for dinner. She wore a navy dress that shimmered under the restaurant lights, while I stuck to a crisp button-down. We laughed over shared appetizers, toasted to bad timing finally working in our favor, and let the night carry us. Meanwhile, Julia's voicemails kept stacking up. One played in the background of the Uber ride back to the hotel. Julia's voice. I don't get why you're being so cold. If you wanted space, you could have just said so. You don't have to ignore me like this. You're scaring me. Samantha glanced at me. She's unraveling. Yeah, I said, staring out the window, because she's losing control. And for once, I'm not chasing after her. That Monday morning, Julia was supposed to be posting beach selfies with her friends. Instead, my phone lit up with a screenshot. One of her friends had DM'd me, clearly siding with me. Friend, she's been a mess here. Keeps checking her phone, ignoring everyone. Honestly, I think she knows she pushed you too far. I didn't respond to that either. Silence, I was learning, was powerful. By the time I got back home with Samantha, I was already planning the final step. It wasn't enough for Julia to just worry. I wanted her to understand, to see exactly how hypocritical she had been. That's when the opportunity practically fell into my lap. Julia texted me on Wednesday. Julia, dinner at La Fontana when I get back, my treat. I want to talk face to face. Please, La Fontana. Her favorite restaurant. The one where we'd celebrated birthdays, anniversaries, promotions. The one she always claimed felt special. So I agreed. But with one small adjustment. The day she got back, I walked into La Fontana, not alone, but with Samantha at my side. Heads turned as we entered, the hostess doing a double take before leading us to a table. I ordered wine, leaned back in my chair, and felt the anticipation build. Julia always prided herself on being in control of the narrative. But that night, the narrative would finally belong to me. And when she walked through that door, suitcase still in her car, makeup barely covering the exhaustion of her trip, the look on her face would be worth every second of restraint I'd shown these past 6 weeks. If you've made it this far, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.